Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to be diving into another 2022 NFL mock draft. We're at the top of another week here, and that means we've got another full week of trades, moves, and an entirely new draft board here to assess in today's video. We had the Packers trade Davante Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders, acquiring their first-round pick, and of course, since that Russell Wilson trade, which obviously shuffled things up in the first round a bit, we've since had the Deshaun Watson trade to the Cleveland Browns. So now the Houston Texans hold the 13th overall pick from the Cleveland Browns, of course. And so we'll be diving into those picks and taking a look at what this board looks like with those teams each having two selections now in round one. So we're not going to waste any time before getting into today's video. You know the drill. Drop down, give today's episode a like, and if you're new around here, click that subscribe button and turn the bell on. All right, we're going to try and be efficient in today's episode. Just got up here this fine morning, and I got to hit the road a little bit. So we're going to be efficient with today's picks and get you guys all of the important information you need to know. The first overall pick in today's episode remains Aidan Hutchinson of the Michigan Wolverines, headed to the Jags here with that, again, first overall pick. The selection has been tackle for us more often than it has been an edge rusher in Aidan Hutchinson, but the free agency behavior of the Jaguars indicates to me that Aidan Hutchinson might be the pick and play here by tagging Cam Robinson, addressing the O-line further by signing star interior offensive lineman Brandon Scherff from the Washington Commanders. I like the moves this team has made to address, again, the offensive line positions for Trevor Lawrence in this year's draft classes. I think that there is still a chance and an opportunity for an Evan Neal, for an Ike Ekwonu to be the pick here at number one, and I wouldn't dislike those moves whatsoever because I don't think you can ever give your quarterback too much help and support, but Aidan Hutchinson to me is the biggest difference-making defensive player on the board in this year's draft. At number two, no Aidan Hutchinson makes the job a little bit more difficult for the Detroit Lions. I think that would be their ideal pick of choice here, but Kyle Hamilton is the next most impactful and the next best player at his position in an area of need. I think that between Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, this team's got a really sturdy tackle combo, and there's really no reason to address that position further, although that might be the next deepest position with the best players. However, Kyle Hamilton is someone I view as a potential centerpiece of a defense. That elite 6'4", 220-pound size and frame, I think, can be an extremely versatile asset to have on the defensive side of the football. He's got good enough speed to cover the entire field, extremely long arms, can close distances very fast, and I think you can start to use him as a walk-up blitzer, and obviously dropping him back into coverage, using him to cover quicker slot receivers or even those speedy tight ends here that are starting to dominate today's NFL. So Kyle Hamilton, a very versatile and dynamic piece here to draft at the number two position for this Detroit Lions team. Evan Neal, obviously out of the University of Alabama, falls here to number three, right into the laps of the Houston Texans. Now, I talked about this a little bit in the last episode. There's sort of some uncertainty about the long-term status on the team of Laremy Tunsil. Now, if you're a Texans fan, obviously you're hoping for Tunsil to get re-signed after giving up 2 first-round draft picks to acquire him from the Miami Dolphins. However, I still think there is a chance that situation might not fall out very favorably long-term. And Evan Neal would be a great asset either way, whether you do just have Evan Neal eventually transition into being your starting left tackle full-time, or if you're able to kick him out to the right side and keep him and Laremy Tunsil on the field at the same time, protect Davis Mills, you're starting fresh, you turn a clean page over here by shipping Deshaun Watson out to Cleveland, I just about said Houston, even though that's where he's coming from, and you're now getting a massive trade package with 3 first-round picks and a whole lot of draft ammo to start that next phase of your franchise over with. So I think Evan Neal, you can't go wrong here. You're going to get a stalwart left tackle, big 6'7" frame, and a guy who is very, very structurally set up to be a star left tackle in this league. At number 4, I've switched the picks a little bit for the Jets since my last mock draft. I've got Ahmad Gardner going all the way up here at the number 4 position. I just think that NFL GMs are going to value him too highly. I had him going at number 10 to the Jets previously, but I'm not so sure he'll still be on the board at that point in time. There are a few teams that could address the cornerback position ahead of that number 10 overall draft pick. And I do think that the cornerback position is a huge area of need for this Jets roster that doesn't really have a solid shutdown man coverage corner. And Ahmad Gardner's elite size and speed combination running that 4.41 40-yard dash are really, really nice things to have on your side. I think he's got really aggressive technique and is someone that could be, again, a press man, shutdown corner in this league. Great length and athleticism for the size is, again, very, very above average. The one thing I've had concerns about, and I will continue to have concerns about, is he gets a bit handsy in coverage. I think that penalties are something he'll struggle on early with. However, if he has the proper coaching, this guy has all the tools and traits to be a great cornerback in this league. At number 5, Ike Ekwonu falls into the laps of the New York Giants. This is probably the latest I've had him going in a recent mock draft, but this would be a huge area of need addresser for the Giants that desperately need to improve that offensive line. You've got Andrew Thomas on one side. You can pick your poison. Do you want to kick Thomas over to the right side or keep him at that left tackle position and insert Ike Ekwonu at the right tackle slot to help out Daniel Jones and whoever is the long-term quarterback for that team? Obviously, again, huge area of need to address for the New York Giants with one of those 2 top 7 picks. At number 6 here, here's where things get interesting. So you've got the Carolina Panthers and the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. It sounded like it was coming down to them and the Falcons. And then in classic Atlanta Falcons fashion, they blew that 28-3 lead. Obviously not acquiring Deshaun, which was rumored to be one of his preferred landing spots between, well, obviously it was all 3 NFC South opponents, the Saints, the Panthers, the Falcons, I misspoke. I said the Panthers were in that final 2, but they were reportedly rumored out a little bit earlier than the other 2 NFC South teams not named the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were. And it sounded like Deshaun wanted to be a Falcon. You've got the big Atlanta market. You've got a lot of endorsement opportunities there, and you can kind of be the savior of that franchise and turn the page for that organization as well. It's transitioning out of an aging Matt Ryan with a lot of money on his contract and obviously a huge cap hit there. And that didn't work out. He ends up going to Cleveland, who was kind of in the same window with Carolina in terms of being ruled out or reported to be out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. And then, boom, you've got Cleveland pulling that deal off. We'll see where Baker Mayfield ends up. But at this point in time, I think Malik Willis might be your best option for an affordable quarterback, someone with a really high ceiling, really nice traits, mobile, is able to obviously deliver the football at a high level. He's got a big arm for this rookie quarterback class, which, again, I think there will be one really, really good QB in this class, whether it be Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. I think that each of those 2 guys have the traits and intangibles if they land in the right situation. And I think that Malik Willis is certainly an upgrade at what you have in Sam Darnold at this point in time. So you miss out on Deshaun Watson, get your franchise quarterback here at number 6. Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 7 falls to the Giants here. I think this is a sweet spot for where value meets upside for Kayvon Thibodeaux. I don't think he has elite NFL pass rushing upside, but I do think he'll be a very productive player in both the run and pass game. And you add an edge threat here for the New York Giants that I think, again, can get after the passer a little bit, but will also be a really, really sturdy force in that run game. That dual threat, that complete player potential and ability here for this Giants front 7, I think, is what makes him a valuable pick here at 7. But again, not being the upside or not having the upside to be a top NFL pass rush in my book. I think he could be a 10 to 12 sack guy. I don't know if he's going to be pushing the needle for leading the NFL in sacks at any point in his career. I don't know if that warrants him being a top 3 selection like he's been previously mocked. And if you were going to way back right after last year's draft, you probably would have mocked Kayvon Thibodeaux to be one of the top 2 or 3 picks off the board. So at number 8 here, we've got Garrett Wilson heading to the Atlanta Falcons. Again, this is a talent-depleted roster at the skill positions. They need someone that can catch the football and make plays. You've got Kyle Pitts, but Calvin Ridley is suspended. Rest in peace to his season, obviously, for or falling victim to FanDuel. And now you've got a dire need, arguably, in my opinion, evidently the worst wide receiver core in the National Football League. So this will at least help get you through this year. Kind of a bridge wide receiver draft here. You'll have two very, very strong pass catchers. And to me, Garrett Wilson is the best wide receiver in this class. His 4.38 40-yard dash and really great explosiveness and speed combined with his play strength. That's something you hear talked about as a major area of importance at the wide receiver position by Daniel Jeremiah, one of the most respected NFL draft experts out there. And obviously his route running speaks for itself. You've got a guy that can run routes at all three levels of the defense and be a very, very prevalent force in the week-to-week game plan. So we'll see what happens with Matt Ryan. The Falcons still have his cap hit. It sounds like he might be the quarterback here for one more year. And then after that, maybe you can, again, hopefully transition into that next phase of your team here. But I don't know if a rookie quarterback is quite the way to go this season, just because of how thin, quote unquote, that draft position or draft class is at that position. And then again, just you got to get through this season, and I don't imagine that Matt Ryan wants to be throwing to bums out there at wide receiver for an entire season. At number 9, we've got things a little bit interesting here. So this is the oh shit moment for the Seattle Seahawks. Malik Willis is not there for you to take at number 9. And I think that he would be the better fit of the two top rookie quarterbacks. I don't know if this team wants to go all in right away for Kenny Pickett with the 9th overall selection. And this just kind of feels Seattle Seahawks to me. This is the team that drafts a little bit quirky in the first round. There's been multiple years where I'm watching, even going back to the LGA Collier pick, Rashad Penny. You're just kind of wondering what their plan is. What are they doing here? And this isn't necessarily one of those picks I think would be terrible, because I do think Trovon Wolker, the very versatile defensive lineman out of the University of Georgia, would be a nice fit for this team and could be used in a variety of fashions. However, I don't know if he's necessarily the obvious pick. So I went, honestly, a little bit unorthodox here, because that's kind of what I expect from Seattle at this point. I don't expect the Seahawks to be a team that picks black and white selections here that seem very obvious. So you get a player that can play as an interior defensive lineman or walked up on the edge, can rush after the passer, can get it down and dirty in the run game. I think that there's a lot to like here, but again, Seattle draft's kind of weird, and this just kind of felt like one of those picks to me. 9 might be a little bit early for Trovon Wolker, but that versatility does give him a lot of value. We'll see what the Seahawks end up doing on draft day, but if Malik Willis isn't there, I don't think the pick is necessarily, again, one of those black and white selections where we absolutely know an area that the team is going to address this April. At number 10, I've got Trevor Penning heading to the New York Jets here to be a plug-and-play right tackle for this football team. Previously, we've had Ike Ekwonu go here. I think maybe even in one. I actually don't think that Evan Neal's fallen to the Jets at any point in any of these mock drafts. However, there has been a frequency here of me addressing the right tackle position for this football team. You got to protect Zach Wilson, and I think getting Trevor Penning is kind of the best of both worlds. You get a mauling right tackle who you can leave Mekhi Becton on the left side for, bring him in day one, and be a significant upgrade for the offensive run game. So you're already going to get a slight boost at the pass protecting position, or at least in that phase of the game, but you're going to get a big kickstart and the ability to run off tackle on the right side of the offensive line. That is very valuable. And Robert Saleh, coming from the San Francisco 49ers organization, understands how valuable the run game is. You need to get that going. Get Michael Carter or whoever your lead back is for the 2022 season off to a hot start, and obviously give them players that can open up holes and move defenders out of the way to make a big difference there. At 11 here, we're sticking with Drake London from the last mock draft to go to the Washington Commanders here. Big target, big body, big frame. That's going to help out Carson Wentz, who throws up a lot of 50-50 balls. Alshon Jeffrey, Michael Pittman, previous players to have success with Carson Wentz, who can be a little reckless at times, but if you give him the proper weapons, I like the idea of having his skill set available to pair with the likes of Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and some of the other playmakers they have in that offense. At number 12 here, we've got Derek Stingley heading to the Minnesota Vikings. This is a home run pick for me if I'm the Vikings. Derek Stingley's a player whose stock, I would say, is a little bit down. After his freshman season, he didn't have the same type of year, didn't look like the same type of player, has dealt with some injuries, hasn't been on the field and readily available for the entirety, obviously, of his eligible time as a player at LSU. But this is a guy who we've seen have shutdown press man coverage corner film on tape and on display for us to look at, and it was readily available for us early on in his career at LSU. Again, lately he hasn't looked like the same guy, but I think if Minnesota can get him here, have him fall into their laps at number 12 and develop him, this is a major point that needs to be addressed for this football team. I think either you go pass rush and pair someone with Danielle Hunter up front, or you address the secondary. I've had Trent McDuffie go here a couple times, but this time Derek Stingley falls here to the number 12 position. I just think that, between losing Jeff Gladney to off the field issues, having that position be weak as it was, there are moves that need to be made here. The Minnesota Vikings desperately need to address their secondary and make sure, obviously, that you have the pieces in play to try and slow down an Aaron Rodgers, which just got a little bit easier. No more Devontae Adams in the division, so go out and help that biggest positional group of need here in this draft class. At number 13, I've got the Houston Texans with that first-round pick. They acquired via the Cleveland Browns, taking Treylon Burks, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. This is a big-bodied threat that can get out in space, move, use his frame as a physical weapon. And he's a guy who said at the Combine he wants to mold his game after Deebo Samuel, being that quote-unquote wide back where you're getting your wide receiver out in space, catching the football very, very quickly, and letting them do the work. Get out in space, put their shoulder down, play physical brand of football. And that's what I think Treylon Burks can do here. He's a little bit less explosive, or at least that's what the 40 times indicate. But again, a huge guy who has really good body control for that size. And this Texans team could use some playmakers. You get these 2 first-round picks here. You get Evan Neal and Treylon Burks. I think you're really starting to build a strong offensive infrastructure to give Davis Mills or whoever's under center a chance. And that's what matters here. Figure out what you've got at quarterback. And if Davis Mills doesn't work out, you don't have to address quarterback in this class. A lot of analysts have been talking about how Davis Mills would be one of the toply considered quarterbacks in this class had he been a rookie entering the draft this year. So give him another year. You've got ammo from not only yourself, but the Cleveland Browns the next 2 seasons to address that position if need be down the road. At number 14 here, I've got George Karlaftis heading to the Baltimore Ravens. Out of the University of Purdue, this is a dynamic and balanced player here that doesn't necessarily give Baltimore a high upside player in either the run or pass game, but rather a balanced guy that can come in and do a little bit of both. And for a team that has an aging defensive line, and obviously uses some bigger interior defensive ends, I think that Karlaftis would be a perfect fit here. Someone that has a bigger frame, isn't necessarily the most, again, elitely athletic player in this class, but you do have some nice pieces to play that outside linebacker position. Obviously, that was addressed in the first round of one of those 2 picks that the Ravens had last year. And you can come in here and start to add some more youth to that defensive line. And again, get a player that plays both the run and pass extremely well. When you've got the likes of Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, both aging on that defensive line, there are positions that can be addressed here. Other options include Jermaine Johnson, who's still on the table. I think that Trovon Walker, had he slid farther than the number 9 pick, would be a perfect fit for Baltimore. There's options here. It just depends on who's available at that pass rusher position. Obviously, you got completely bamboozled, and that Zadarius Smith deal fell through the floor. So this remains a position of need for this Ravens team. At 15, speaking of the devil, Jermaine Johnson heads to the Philadelphia Eagles here. This is something that we've addressed in almost every mock draft. Josh Sweat still under contract. Just signed Hassan Reddick, a really nice player from Temple. Their NFL was making a big deal out of how he essentially came full circle from playing in the city of Philadelphia in college to now returning to play for the Eagles after having a decent stretch with the Cardinals and then the Panthers for 1 year last season. But with Brandon Graham's injury, this is still a really important area to address, in my opinion, for this team. I just don't think we can expect him to be the same player. At his age, with the injury he sustained, an Achilles injury, I just think that you got to start to add depth and youth here. You can't let opposing quarterbacks get comfortable in the pocket and sit back and pass on you at will. Jermaine Johnson's a player who skyrocketed his draft stock, not only this season at Florida State after transferring from Georgia, but also having a really, really strong combine in Senior Bowl. That, again, really helped his stock, and I think that the Eagles would be very happy to have him at number 15. Trent McDuffie, one of the cornerbacks I've raved about in this draft class. I love his intangibles, his coverage skills, how smooth he plays. and his ability to be a shutdown corner. I think that Trent McDuffie's upside is great here at the University of Washington, and again, rarely gets out of phase, really smooth in transition, turns his hips well, and I think that this would be a home run pick for the Eagles to pair as their number 2 corner behind Darius Slay, who is the top dog on that roster still. Jordan Davis at number 17 here plugs up the middle for the LA Chargers. They need someone new on the interior. Linval Joseph is going to be 34 this October, and this run defense was not very good a season ago. You went out and added Khalil Mack, the star pass rusher from Chicago, to obviously improve that pass rush rotation. Again, as I just said, for the Eagles, you can't let opposing quarterbacks get comfortable, and especially if you're playing in the AFC West. That's the situation here for the Chargers. They've addressed that position. Now it's time to really control the line of scrimmage, get Jordan Davis, an extremely athletic big man for his size, ran a sub 4.8 40-yard dash, I believe so 4.78, which is insane for someone. Again, look at that big boy there, putting those wheels on display, and obviously his tape at Georgia is very good as well, and a movable object in that run game, and with the other pieces on that defensive line would be a menace to deal with there in LA. Chris Olave at number 18 here to the New Orleans Saints. It sounds like Jameson is going to come back, so this is another team that missed out on Deshaun Watson. And, you know, I think that this team could use a little bit of variety. This receiver core was really, really weak a season ago. And yes, you are getting Michael Thomas back, but it's been 2 years now since that historic wide receiver season, which is now no longer in any, I don't believe it's as historic as it was at the time. He still had more receptions than Cooper Kupp, I believe, but after Cooper Kupp's season this year, I think it kind of knocks Michael Thomas's season, that 2019 year, down the pedestal a couple notches. But Michael Thomas is more of your slant route runner and a guy who will run those shorter routes and be a possession guy. Chris Olave, on the other hand, if you bring Jameis Winston back, gives the ability to open up the deep passing game, a really smooth route runner deep downfield, and can stretch that defense vertically, which I think would be an asset to have, help open up things underneath for MT. And obviously the defense is going to be magneted and staring at Michael Thomas, making sure he doesn't destroy them if he's still the same player he was the last time we saw him on the field. And you've got Alvin Kamara there. So it starts to create a really nice, balanced offensive dynamic. And I think that would do very well for Jameis Winston, who didn't really have a deep passing threat last year with Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith in that pass catching core. At number 19 here, Tyler Linderbaum falls to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a player who I really like. I think is one of the stronger players at his individual position. The issue here is how much do we value that center position? I think we underrated a little bit here. We saw the immediate impact that a couple of centers had last season, especially Creed Humphrey for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that Tyler Linderbaum could be that type of a guy. I think he's a plug-and-play interior offensive lineman, whether that be at the center position or the guard spot for this Eagles roster. And yes, Jason Kelce is coming back for one more season after contemplating retirement this offseason. So you get to learn from the best here. That's kind of been his comp, is Jason Kelce. What a better situation to go learn from him for a year, maybe play guard as kind of a filler for his rookie year, and then transition into being that franchise center for this Eagles offense that had a really strong offensive line a year ago. But again, I think could use some help on the interior a little bit. At number 20 here, Charles Cross falls to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one that, just kind of the way this mock draft fell out here. I've had Charles Cross go much higher, but I think that other teams addressing positions of need led Charles Cross to fall down here to this number 20 position. This Steelers team could use tackle help. That's something that would be very, very important for them. Giving Mitch Trubisky more time, giving Najee Harris someone in the run game. Now, Charles Cross is predominantly a skilled pass protector, but still adding a big man like this, a skilled guy with a lot of upside and talent, I think could be huge here. This has been a liability position for the Steelers for a couple of years now. Devontae Wyatt remains the pick here for the Patriots at the number 21 position, plugging up those run lanes, helping Bill Belichick win the line of scrimmage here in New England. Pair him with Christian Barmore. They've got a couple of pieces on that D-line and at the pass rusher positions. Again, start to upgrade that front seven a little bit. And as you start to win the line of scrimmage, Bill Belichick can do some more things with the safeties in the back end and be a little bit more, or I should say a little bit less vanilla in coverage, because as this personnel starts to rebuild itself, it looks kind of odd what the Patriots are doing right now in free agency after having that huge spending spree a season ago. However, I think that you continue to just add talent to the draft here, and hopefully things will work themselves out for the Pats. At number 22, with the pick that the Packers received via the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, I've got Green Bay selecting Jameson Williams. Now, this is a must for me if you're the Packers. One of these 2 first-round picks has to be a wide receiver. If you're going to trade Davante Adams, you better be damn certain that one of the players you're getting in return is going to be capable of at least having some level of immediate impact. No one can step in here day one, even if you're drafting my favorite player in this class, Garrett Wilson. No one can step in and replace a franchise all-time player in Davante Adams. However, Jameson Williams can be a start. Now, he is returning from an ACL injury. He's nowhere near as complete of a player as Davante Adams was. However, he does have a lot of elite skills and athletic intangibles that you can't teach. So if you bring him in a strongly coached wide receiver room, that is, develop that underneath game, get that route running on par, maybe year 2, year 3, Aaron Rodgers has a really strong wideout on his hands. I think that Jameson Williams, again, is someone with a lot of upside that obviously the Packers could use, losing Davante at one of their most key offensive positions. At 23 here, I've got the Cardinals selecting George Pickens out of the University of Georgia. This is another one that's important for me here. The Cardinals should address the wide receiver position in the top 2 rounds of this draft. You lose a guy like Christian Kirk, who was your leading receiver last season. DeAndre Hopkins is aging, and you've got an unpleased quarterback. Obviously, you want to help satisfy his needs and obviously get him the playmakers he would like at the pass-catching position. I think that George Pickens has a lot of upside here, and with a skilled and developed, polished player like a DeAndre Hopkins to learn from, I think the sky's the limit for George Pickens here, a guy who has all the athletic intangibles you look for, elite burst, elite downfield ability to stretch the field, and I think, again, he could be refined a lot as an intermediate and underneath route runner. That's a huge asset for this team. We've mocked Chris Olave here in past mock drafts, and I think that would be something that, again, this Cardinals team could really use after losing. Technically A.J. Green is still on the market, but you have lost Christian Kirk officially. That leaves you down to, Rondale Moore and DeAndre Hopkins as your top 2 pass catchers. The team could bring back Antoine Wesley, but I do think this is a position that, again, while you've got Kyler Murray on a rookie deal for one more season, take advantage of that lighter cap space and go out and get him the weapons he needs, and maybe even make one splash free agency landing here for this team in the 2022 offseason. At number 24, I've got the Dallas Cowboys selecting David Ojabo. So here's what gets interesting for me out of the University of Michigan, a really nice pass rusher, a really high upside piece in my opinion. So if you give Jerry Jones an opportunity at the number 24 spot to get a discount on a player who, again, I think has a really, really high ceiling and really nice upside, I think Jerry just might do that. Now, obviously, the argument and the reason for concern here, the uncertainty in remaining draft stock, is after rupturing his Achilles, how high will David Ojabo go? I've seen him go as high as top 10 in mock drafts. I've also had him go frequently in the teens of my mock drafts, so dropping him about 6 to 8 spots here in today's episode for the Cowboys to scoop up at number 24. Figured I'd change things up a bit from having Nakobe Dean go here every time. I just feel like he's always the best value on the table. But again, we'll switch things up a little bit today. You lose Randy Gregory. DeMarcus Lawrence restructures his deal, but at this point in time, he's not really a pass rusher. He's more of a run-stopping force at this phase of his career. And that really leaves you with Micah Parsons in your pass rushing rotation to get after opposing quarterbacks and make them uncomfortable. So I think that if you can get a really, really nice young player, again, develop his traits, create a more polished and refined edge talent here, you could get yourself a home run draft pick from that falling stock. Now, the question is, will he fall into the second because of this injury? Who knows? The timetable can be anywhere between 4 and 12 months. We saw Cam Akers injure his Achilles last summer and return and play in the playoffs at the end of the regular season even, and then win the Super Bowl with the Rams. So there's no telling really here. It's going to depend person to person on how fast Ojabo can recover here. and ultimately regain that burst and explosiveness. But I think this would be a really, really nice value pick for the Cowboys at 24. At number 25, we've got Kenyon Green, the best interior, or not necessarily interior. I think that Tyler Linderbaum is the best interior O-lineman. But the best guard in this draft class is Kenyon Green, in my opinion. Heading to the Bills here at the number 25 pick, you just picked up Roger Saffold for a one-year deal. However, that's an older player, not necessarily going to be your long-term solution. And why not go for it one season with a really, really strong interior offensive line? I don't think that can hurt anything. And having both of these pieces for 1 year, again, I think could be a nice asset for the run game and help. I mean, you're running Josh Allen on QB power every once in a while as well. Maybe that opens things up a bit more for him. But long-term here, Kenyon Green can obviously be a franchise player at the guard position because, again, Saffold on that one-year deal, I'm not sure if he stays longer than one season. He's getting close to retirement as it is. So I think upgrade that offensive line position for the time being. I wouldn't mind going wide receiver or previously pass rusher was a need, but obviously bringing in Von Miller changes that a little bit, especially on that long-term deal he signed. And the wide receiver talent at this point in time is a little bit sparse. We've had a lot of them go early in today's mock. Devin Llyod at number 26 remains the pick here for the Titans. You've got Rashad Evans as a free agent. Jan Brown is still out there. And there's uncertainty about who's going to be leading this linebacking core, to open up next season. And I think that despite having an underwhelming combine, Devin Lloyd's not someone who we had going in the mid-20s prior to the NFL combine because the testing results for especially athleticism were not fantastic. He moved well in the movement drills, but didn't look great in the 40-yard dash or even some of the agility, the pro agility run there. I think that he's still a really good player. The tape speaks for itself. The play speed is great. The awareness, the intangibles are there. I think he would fit perfectly into a Tennessee system that Rashad Evans wasn't necessarily the most athletic guy either. He kind of just did his job and was where he needed to be at the right time. So I think Devin Lloyd would be a great plug-and-play replacement for a player like Rashad Evans, and I think that he actually has a higher upside and ceiling than Rashad Evans brought to the table for this team. Daxton Hill, a new face here at number 27, heading to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be the missing piece to that youthful secondary. Obviously, you've got Antoine Winfield heading into his third year. Now you get Daxton Hill, a guy who I think can be a missile flying over the top of the defense. If you're playing cover 2 high shell, this is a player that can roam all over the field, get interceptions, pick off opposing passers, and be kind of a menace because he can cover a lot of ground very quickly. Again, pair him with Antoine Winfield. You've got Logan Ryan under there for a short-term contract to kind of play a stopgap position for losing Jermaine Whitehead in free agency to the Jets, but you do have an opportunity here to add some speed and some upside to this secondary, obviously, in a weaker year in the NFC. So some of those weaker quarterbacks, some of those lesser talents, I could see Daxton Hill having an immediate impact day one, and being, again, a high-flying safety that makes a lot of plays over the top. At number 28, another new face. We've got Christian Watson heading to the Green Bay Packers. So 2 first-round picks here at the wide receiver position for Green Bay. Obviously, again, you lose Devontae Adams, acquire that pick from the Raiders. This is what you got here. The testing for Christian Watson just might have pushed him into the back end of the first round. I'm sure some Packer fans might not be ecstatic about this pick because it does seem like a little bit of a reach. The consensus is not that Christian Watson is a slam dunk first rounder, but he's kind of one of those bubble guys. I really like him though. 6'5", has a lot of speed, can fly down the football field, and he's got some really solid intangibles as well. He kind of matches, that Matt LaFleur larger wide receiver build, big frame, size, and ability to be a playmaker out in space. I think him and Aaron Rodgers, if they could develop a rapport, would be a really effective combination downfield. Nakobe Dean slides here, number 29, the playmaking linebacker. Obviously, kind of another one of those guys you would, on tape looks like a missile, flying all over the football field, making plays. I think is a very nice piece who would fit in well with this versatile Miami defense, who's obviously looking to always add playmakers. Linebacker is one of the weaker spots on this team. At number 30, Andrew Booth, still the pick here for the Kansas City Chiefs. I just want to read you a little list here. Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, and Courtland Sutton. Those are the top 2 wide receivers for each of the 3 division rivals the Chiefs have in-house this year for an absolutely loaded, wild AFC West for the 2022 season. I cannot wait to see what happens. Andrew Booth, add the next best corner on the board here. and try and slow down those guys as much as you can. It's probably one of those situations where you look to contain them. You necessarily aren't going to be able to just outright stop them. Bernhard Raimann here, my best remaining offensive tackle here in the first round, heads to Cincinnati to play right tackle for Joe Burrow. Obviously, this was a huge area of concern last year. The offensive line was the final broken piece that, Aaron Donald busted through that O-line and was able to put a hit on Joe Burrow on 4th down and win that Super Bowl for the Rams. Try and continue to upgrade that position. Obviously, the biggest weakness on that former, Super Bowl runner-up team. And improve that group as much as you can. I think that Bernhard Raimann would help in both the run and pass game over what they have right now. And then Boye Mafe, a pick I've really liked here, the number 32 spot for the Detroit Lions. A raw edge talent, but someone who I think has a lot of traits to bring to the table. And I think that when you miss out on Aidan Hutchinson with that first overall pick, or your first overall pick being at the number 2 position, I think that you still want to address that front 7, especially after losing a guy like Trey Flowers this offseason. Boye Mafe is the pick I like there. So if you enjoyed today's mock draft, make sure to drop down and leave it with a like today, and subscribe to the channel for more mock drafts like this one, as well as Dynasty fantasy football content here as we're in the NFL offseason for 2022. Leave a comment down in the comment section below as well to let me know who you want your team to pick in round 1 of the 2022 NFL draft, and what you would have done differently if you were in charge of the controls here in the position I'm in for today's video. So thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I will see you next time. Peace out.